Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. This is the show where I take a look at every classic Doctor Who story, plus a bunch of big Finish audio dramas, one episode a day, 7 days a week, and today, on the 27th, the 27th of September 2019, I'm taking a look at Jonathan Morris's contribution to the 6th series of 4th Doctor Adventures, Subterranea, starting with part 1. Let's get this out of the way. Subterranea feels like it's meant to be a Cyberman story. It's like you have these Silex underground, and they convert people into them, and they are mechanical creatures. Yeah, that's the Cybermen. Jonathan Morris created basically Cybermen who are underground. I don't know, like, there's no way this couldn't have been intentional, but because it's like they're even described as conversion. I don't know if it was like they couldn't get the rights to the Cybermen for this random story, or what. But this feels like a Cybermen story. Also, as an episode, this is an episode where, I'm sorry, 30 minutes is too long. The 30-minute runtime is kind of a detriment here. John Morris does a good job of trying to flesh things out and keeping things moving, and keeping the characters in line. But with that, you have one of the biggest issues of the story being that, like, it's just a bunch of character introductions. The Doctor and Romana are separated, and it's basically a bunch of we're just doing the story. We're just doing a story of people talking in rooms about minerals and things under this planet, which, it's not actually a bad episode. It's kind of enjoyable. The character drama here is okay. It's just not an episode that I would say is all that great. It's one where you really have just this, you have this big story trying to build into character drama with not a lot of plot to hold it together. I will say, Abigail McKern, who is the daughter of Leo McKern, where it's one of those stories where you have the plot just trying to be character drama, but John Morris just doesn't do that good a job here with the character drama. Abigail McKern is in this as this. She's the twist villain, which, that comes out of the surprise on the villain. It comes out of nowhere and feels like it doesn't add anything. It feels like that's just sort of like we need a mid-episode twist to try to get a plot moving. That feels like it's the quote-unquote inciting incident. Because of that, it's not a very solid way of doing this story. It's like, it's like, hey, we've done this. We did this. We did a story like this, and it's like, cool. We've got the chance to be free, and do stories that might be interesting, but overall, it's one where you really don't, you don't get the sense that this is meant to be, a story where things work out. It's just sort of like one of those. It's a story that you know the conclusion, and you know where you kind of know where the story. You have just the idea of like, it's like this. It feels just like the first episode has been prelude. It's good, but it's still just like, it feels like, oh, this is just prelude for something that we're doing bigger. It's not necessarily one of those perfect stories, but it feels like it's more a prologue to a main event type thing. So overall, I'm going to give Subterranea Part 1 a 6 out of 10. Alright, it is the 28th of September 2019, and I just finished listening to Part 2 of Subterranea, the concluding episode. So Subterranea, this episode, it wasn't great. Mainly because this is a story where I feel like Jonathan Morris has kind of mixed his messages a bit. This is a story where you have all these characters, and you have the Silax, which are supposed to be basically the Cybermen. But the idea here is that, like, surprise, this was almost entirely meant to be a story about, basically about climate change and, environmentalism. It has an environmentalist slant. Now, I'm not trying to say it was poorly done, but it kind of came out of nowhere and was like, surprise! You want a story about climate change? Here you go. Here's a story about climate change. Which is something I'm just like, really? Is this really what the story is meant to be? It's not your standard Doctor Who story. It's just sort of added in right there at the last minute. That you're like, oh, we were doing a story. That's what we were doing a story about. I thought we were, going to be doing something a little. It feels like it was meant to be something different when, like, just a little more, a little more built up upon. It's just sort of whereas it's just sort of there. It's not like, oh, here's the real story. Here's a real final big conclusion to our plot. No, here's the story. Here's what we're doing. Have fun with that. And it doesn't really work on that footing because it's doing a message but also trying to be a comedy runaround, also being a Cyberman story, also trying to be this emotional weight of a father trying to save his daughter and a husband and a bumbling idiot of a husband trying to save his wife, sort of, even though that's like just sort of there for 2 seconds and then like, oh, we're not actually doing that bit of the story, so just forget we ever intended that as a thing. Like, as a story, it's fairly confused and pretty much just one of the stories where you're like, okay, what was the actual plan here? Like, where where were we actually going with this? Because you really can't tell where they were meaning to go with this story. It's like it's a plot. You know, the story happens, but it doesn't feel like a story that, you know, that continues on properly. It's just sort of like, oh, we had an idea of this. You know, but we didn't necessarily we didn't necessarily have the full idea. It feels like this may have needed another draft to sort of sort out what it wanted to be, because it feels confused. You know, it feels like it's you know, it's it's just sort of like this. It's just sort of this story that it just doesn't know what it wants to be, and I don't know really where the story where it was meant to be going. So overall, I'm going to give Subterranea Part 2 a 5 out of 10, because I think with another draft, this could have been great. That being said, we do add up the scores and average them out to give Subterranea a final score of 5.5 out of 10. Thank you, everybody, for watching this installment of the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. As always, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And join me next time as we take a look, not at the finale, but the second to last story before the finale, and oddly enough, our last audio before we actually start Season 18, because for whatever reason, this season splits up in between stories. So, join me next time when we take a look at Andrew Smith's contribution to the range with the MOVELLAN grave.